They want to know who these guys are.
Who are these guys? Well, let's see. At the piano, Sue Ling.
Hey!
Chuck Alabin on pipes.
Chuck, all right, Chuck.
Oh, thank you very much. On string bass, we have Dan Shellis.
Jack.
And on tuba, Charles Young. First trombone, Ernie Hardy.
What's your class?
Class of 53.
All right.
On euphonium, we got a new instrument in this band, euphonium. You're going to hear more from that later. Dave Siebert. And providing the applause is, Jim Mosier, trumpet.
All right.
Fran Morgan, alto saxophone. Charles McCary is usually playing his bassoon, but tonight he's playing tenor sax. Charles McCary. And Emerson Brown climbed off some sort of a mountain up in the Adirondacks to be here especially tonight with us. Emerson Brown on clarinet. And hiding behind the piano is Eddie DeWitt. And before Sue Ling took over the piano, you were listening to Fred Schwartz. Where's Fred? Okay. I'm Joe McConnell.
Hey, Joe.
How about some Cornell songs?
Okay, we're going to have some Cornell songs. I think you can remember these songs. We'll start out with Sue Ling. We'll do a little introduction. We're going to do My Old Cornell, originally written by Will Dillon, going way, way, way back. And then we'll do one chorus of My Old Cornell, and we'll go right into Give My Regards to Davy. 2 choruses on that with an MGM finale. So, I want to go back to the old days. Here we go. 1, 2. Oh, I want to go back to the old days, the good old days on the hill. Back to my Cornell, back to my Cornell, 'cause that's where they all get Cornell. I am Cornell, far above the Yukon. I hear the chiming bells.
Savages, you may be seated.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is a wonderful occasion. Welcome, Cornell alumni. Welcome, Ithacans. Welcome, friends. Welcome, Savage Club groupies. As if. Welcome to Savages on the Loose. This is a celebration of 105 years that we've been in existence, in many cases just to entertain ourselves, but at least once a year to come together to entertain you. We're so glad to be here. You perhaps have read on the back of the program our history, but what is the Savage Club today? Fundamentally, I think we're just friends. We're dentists, doctors. We had a lawyer, but we threw him out. We're civil engineers, we're retirees, we're college administrators. We meet once a month, and we share a great love of Cornell, the idea that we might be able to perform, and a great camaraderie. The third Sunday of each month, we get together, sort of like this, and everyone who wishes gets up and performs. So in a sense, the show you're going to be seeing tonight is not a lot different from what we do at our regular meetings. People who are fundamentally amateurs, but with enthusiasm, who really would like to entertain. We'll go right into the first segment. Tonight, our first segment you may see, not right now, you won't see, but you may see in your program that Dan Falcone and his friends in the band have got some news for you. There's apparently some tough dude out there called Mac the Knife, and he's back, so you better listen to him. Then after that, we're going to be hearing brothers Tobin, Ungberg, and Fuller. The program tells us that, yes, they're taking us to Boston about mass transit madness. What they didn't tell me is that they're going to take us to Boston via San Francisco. So there will be two Kingston Trio-like numbers. I think you'll enjoy them. And finally, Charlie Young of Watkins Glen is going to be singing selections from the Messiah. He tells me that he's been singing from the Messiah since about the time he was age 13. So I look forward to this first segment. I hope the band is about ready. I hope Mr. Falcone is. And even if you aren't, I'm going to call you out. Let's do it!
Oh, the shark has pretty teeth, dear, and it shows them pearly ones. Just a jackknife has all that keeping, and it keeps it out of sight. You know when that shark bites with its teeth, dear, scarlet billows start to spread. Fancy gloves though has old Mac did. So there's never ever a trace of red on a sidewalk. Sunday morning lies a body just oozing life. Someone sneaking around the corner. Could that someone be on Mac the Knife? There's a tugboat down by the river, a
blues when my baby left me down by the Frisco Bay. Ocean liner, you're gone so far away. Didn't need you so bad, she was the best gal I ever had. Said goodbye, made me cry, gonna lay down my head and die. I ain't got a nickel and I ain't got a lousy dime. If she don't come back, think I'm gonna lose my mind. If she ever comes back to stay, gonna be another brand new day. Walking with my baby down by the San Francisco Bay. Sitting down looking through my back door, wondering which way to go. Gal I'm so crazy about, she don't love me no more. Guess I'll take a freight train, cause I'm feeling blue. Ride the train to the end of the line, thinking only of you. Meanwhile in another city, just about to go insane. I heard my baby call the way she used to call my name. If she ever comes back to stay, it's gonna be another brand new day. Walking with my baby down by the San Francisco Bay. Walking with my baby down by the San Francisco Bay. Walking with my baby down by the San Francisco Bay.
Broken heart. Maybe he can go find that one that Tony Bennett left there and get a transplant. Meanwhile, we're going to move across to the East Coast now, the city of Boston, and you might fish around in your pockets for a little loose change, because our friend Charlie, he sure could use a nickel.
Let me tell you a story of a man named Charlie on a tragic and fateful day. He put 10 cents in his pocket, kissed his wife and family, went to ride on the MTA. Oh, did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. He may ride forever 'neath the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned. Charlie handed his dime at the Indian Square station, and he changed for Jamaica Plain. When he got there, the conductor told him one more nickel. Charlie couldn't get off of that train. Oh, did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. He may ride forever 'neath the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned.
Now all night long, Charlie rides through the station crying, what will become of me? Oh dear, how can I afford to see my sister in Chelsea or my cousin in Roxbury?
Did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. He may ride forever 'neath the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned. Charlie's wife goes down to the Scully Square station every day at 2:15. And through the open window she hands Charlie a sandwich as the train goes rumbling through. Oh, did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. He may ride forever 'neath the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned. Now you citizens of Boston, don't you think it's a scandal how the people have to pay and pay? Fight the fare increase, vote for George O'Brien, get more Charlie off the MTA. Or else he never returned, no, he never returned, and his fate will be unlearned. He may ride forever neath the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned. He's the man who never returned. He's the man who never returned.
That you, Charlie?
voice of him that travels in the wilderness. Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Shall be
and every mountain and hill I below. But rock and straight, and the rock was the crooked straight, and the rock places and the rock places every valley shall be exalted, every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill made low. For realm and lace, the crooked place, the crooked place, and the rough place is plain, and the rough place is plain, and the rough place is plain. Rocket straight, and the ram places plain. I've just been handed this by the Ithaca Police Department and requested that I read it specifically at this gathering of Cornell alumni. I quote every word. Welcome alumni and best wishes at your reunion. Should you unfortunately be pulled over by one of our officers this weekend, we submit the following top 5 list of things not to say to the officer who stops you. Number 5. Hey, you must have been doing 125 to keep up with me. Great job. Number 4. You know, I was going to be a cop, but I decided to finish high school first. Now, these are things not to say, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying just to warn you. Number 3. Gee, officer, that's terrific. The last officer only gave me a warning, too. Number 2. Is it true that people become cops because they can't get a job at McDonald's? And finally, number 1, things not to say to the officer who may stop you this weekend. Sorry, officer, I can't reach my license unless you hold my beer. You know, I had wanted to make sure in my welcomes that I welcomed a special class here. There are classes here who have been out longer, classes who have been out shorter, but there's only one class who's been out 50 years. Here's to the 49ers. Congratulations.
There's also another special welcome, and that is to a great friend, beloved Savage, outrageous person who's had a terribly rough year this year, health-wise. He's come all the way down from Casanova, New York. Fred Palmer?
Fred.
Thank you very much. Fred is a tremendous man, and we're so glad to have him here tonight, I tell you. Right into the next segment of things that we've got for you tonight. Now imagine yourself back in Radioland, with the golden days of Bob and Ray. Well, Paul Stearns is going to be, with Joe Leamy, is going to be doing an actual script of Bob and Ray from the 50s. The next thing will be our Savage Club quartet. For about 105 years, the Savage Club has had a quartet. Well, this is ours, vintage 1999. They have sort of a strange version of the discovery of the New World. And then finally, local treasure and composer Christopher Morganloy will be playing from one of his own works. We're very, very honored to hear that. But right now, Bob and Ray, take it away, please.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Ben Royster, and this is your Army Amateur Hour. Tonight we're coming your way from Fort Armbruster, Ohio, home of the fighting 379th Horse-Drawn Infantry Brigade. And with me here on stage is our first contestant from Fort Armbruster to compete for the coveted Drill Talent Award. He's Corporal Edgar Bausch. Welcome to the show, Corporal.
Thank you, Sergeant. And I'd just like to send a verbal greeting to all my friends out there at the 46th Hay Baling Unit of the Fighting 379th Horse-Drawn Infantry Brigade.
Well, it's obvious you've got a lot of friends pulling for you out there, Corporal. And I notice now you're letting a lot of little white mice out of their cages on top of the piano. Does that tie in somehow with the talent you've prepared to demonstrate for us?
Yes, it does, Sergeant. And as soon as I have 88 trained mice here, and that figures out 1 to each key on the piano. And as soon as I get them all in position, I'll demonstrate how I've trained them to jump up and down in place, thus creating a piano melody. All right, fellas, line up, count off.
Well, I think it's admirable that...
Excuse me, Sergeant, but I think they're all in place now, and I better get started while I still have their undivided attention.
By all means, go right ahead, Corporal. The stage is all yours. Corporal Edgar Bausch.
Okay, fellas, so let's go. 1, 2, 3, go. 6, 9, 12, 43. Pick up your feet, number 5. Fellas, just remember your numbers. Your slow, 63. Jump higher, 14, higher. That's it, that's my boy. Now you've got it, fellas, now you've got it. That's it.
Beautiful tune. And really a great job of animal training. I'm sure we'll be seeing you at the district finals of our drill talent competition to be held in the Yale Bowl next February. And now our second contestant on your Army Amateur Hour is Major Bertram Pudgeman. And I suppose all your friends call you Bert.
No, they call me Major Pudgeman. I don't have any really close friends.
Well, I'm sure we don't want to discuss your problem making friends, so why don't you just tell us about the act you prepared to demonstrate for us tonight?
Well, I do impersonations of famous military commanders in history. And quite a few of them became my heroes while I was at West Point. And I've built up a little act around my impressions of them.
Well, that sounds like good, clean entertainment. So the stage is all yours, Major Bertram Pudgeman.
Well, first is a great favorite of mine, and I'm sure he's yours too, General Mark Clark. To the right flank, Hodge. To the rear, Hodge. Forward, Hodge. That's all I do of him.
don't think this is going over too well, Major. Maybe you better just go on to your next impersonation.
Well, next is a favorite of everybody's in World War I, General Blackjack Pershing. Fall in. Attention. At ease, men. That's all I do of Pershing.
Major, maybe you better duck out the back way before the men tear you to pieces.
That's okay. I'll get right on to my big finish. The hero of the Mexican War, General Winfield Scott. Hop, 2, 3, 4. Hop, 2, 3, 4. That's it.
Well, Major, I don't know what went wrong, but thank you very much. And there he goes.
I don't know what went wrong. My houseboy just loaned it.
Our final contestant on your Army Amateur Hour, and this is Sergeant Ben Royster saying so long until the next time, when we'll be coming your way from the Exeter, New Hampshire Marine Base, home of the battling 14th. Yeah. So long.
In 1492, 3 ships sailed out to sea, the Nina and the Pinta and the Santa Maria. And as they sailed the stormy sea on that historic day, from way up in the crow's nest you could hear Luigi say, "Please, Mr. Columbus, turn the ship around. Take me back, I wanna feel my 2 feet on the ground. Why you tell Isabella that the world was round? Please, Mr. Columbus, turn the ship around." But Chris took out his mandolin and he began to play. They sang in fast tarantella until the break of day. They ate up all the provolone and drank up all the wine. But still up in that crow's nest you could hear Luigi cry.
Hey, will somebody let me down? I have to use the bathroom.
Bet she's gotta use the poop deck. Please, Mr. Columbus, turn the ship around. Take me back, I wanna feel my 2 feet on the ground. Why you tell Isabella that the world was round? Please, Mr. Columbus, turn the ship around. Oh.
Listen, I freshened your breath here.
And then one day they sighted land right off the starboard bow. Columbus said, "I told you so. Our journey's over now."
Then Luigi saw the Indians gathered on the shore, so he said,
Oh, 4 pizzas. 6.
"I'm gonna ask you just once more.
Oh, please, Mr. Columbus, turn the ship around. The Indians look menacing, they mean to hold their ground. So if we land there on the sand, they'll boil us pound for pound. Please, Mr. Columbus, turn the ship around. Oh,
chicken. Hey, Christopher Columbus, is that the U-boat?
That's not on my boat. It's no longer belong to me.
So please turn this ship
Up next we have just a taste, just a morceau or a morceau symphonique, played by Brother Seibert on a most unusual instrument, accompanied by our friend, the beloved Su Ling. I think you'll enjoy that. Following David, the next act is not for the squeamish. Actually, you're going to need both an Italian menu and probably a pack of Rolaids by the time friend Morgan gets through. But I think you'll be entertained. It's his own work. As Christopher Lloyd's just performed his own work, friend Morgan will be gracing us with his own work. The Bard, William Shakespeare, will be up after that as Brother Graham will be giving us a speech from As You Like It. And finally, the segment, and indeed the act, will be closed with one of the biggest voices in all of Tompkins County. Brother H. Donald Hinman will be taking us up and down every mountain. So David, if you're ready with Su Ling, take it away.
I'd like to tell you a little about the unusual instrument I brought with me today. This is a piano. It has about, no really, this is a euphonium. It's a member of the brass family along with the trumpet, trombone, tuba, French horn, and baritone horn. You may recognize that it does look like a baritone horn, which is its closest relative, except for the differences, being the euphonium has a fourth valve on the side to help you with the lower notes, a larger mouthpiece, and it's also more expensive. Now, to help you remember the word euphonium, you may think of a closely related word to it, euphemism. A pleasing way to say something kind of harsh. Euphonium, a very pleasing sound.
How's everybody doing so far? Now, before we get started on this next song, I should explain one thing to you because you might not be really acquainted with this particular Italian delicacy. It's called squigille. If any Italians are out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. Or maybe you won't, because for a long time I thought that squigille was a dish of cut up eel that was sauteed with garlic and tomatoes and so on. And then Tony Pasco, one of our members, mentioned to me the other day that it was actually snail. But in either case, it's a disgusting Italian dish. I'll be singing about such things. Maestro. Frankie owned a fancy ristorante, best Italian food in all the land. But Frankie was in love with lovely Rosa, so this is what he sang to win her hand. A love song. You're the sauce on my spaghetti, and to prove my words are real, I'd give it all up to have your love, 'cause I'd rather have you than squigille. Take away my baked lasagna, and here's my peppers and veal. And to prove I'm not a phony, here's my cannelloni, 'cause I'd rather have you than squigille. I wouldn't be the least bit sorry to give up everything I've got. To prove it, here's my calamari and a generous portion of manigot. You're the nuts on my spumoni, you're the cheese on my fusilli, but I'd give it all up to have your love, 'cause I'd rather have you than squigille. Take my wedge of Parmigiano, even better, take the whole wheel. I'm anxious to please, so I give it with ease, 'cause I'd rather have you than squigille. Here's my chicken cacciatore, it's to show just how I feel. And to prove I'm no zucchini, here's my scallopini, 'cause I'd rather have you than squigille. I hear you told my cousin Gina that I'm not going very far. Hey, I'm handing you the whole cucina, and I'm throwing in a casserole of bacala. So if you've a mind to marry, I'll prepare this simple meal. A plate of rigatoni, a cup of zabaione, some pesto genovese. I must be going crazy in just a few momenti. My pasta's done al dente, a loaf of warm focaccia, with that I know I gotcha. A plate of aglio zuppa, it's
Billy Super Duper, ba-da-ba-dooba, forgot the next line. A plate of spaghettini to show I'm not a meanie. A glass of ruby vino and a cup of cappuccino, 'cause I'd rather have you than Scungini. Ba-ba-ba, za-doo-ba, booby-dooby-doo-ba. And go tell your mother when you got it.
Deep, deep into the dark forest of Arden was a ragged bunch of exiles. And they're looking kind of hungry. They probably could use some of that scungeel. But they've been exiled and they're in rough shape. And matter of fact, there's the Duke. Now the Duke's been out exiled for quite a while, but he's been able to see some of the better side of things. He sees tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, and sermons in stones. And yet, on the other hand, the reality of being exiled leaves them very unhappy at times. And the Duke comments, "Thou seest we are not all alone unhappy. This wide and universal theater presents more woeful pageants than the scene wherein we play in." And his associate Jacques responds and is inspired and gives his speech, The 7 Ages of Man. "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then the whining schoolboy, with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. And then the soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the bard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part. The 6th age shifts to the lean and slippered pantaloon, spectacles on nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again towards childish treble, pipes, and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all that ends this strange eventful history, his second childishness and mere oblivion, sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything.
till you find your dream, a dream that will need all the love you can give. Every day of your life, for as long as you live, climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you'll find your dream. A dream that will need all the love you can give. Every day of your life, for as long as you live, climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you'll find your dream.
Well done, Brother President. We're going to take about 10 minutes. When you hear the band start playing, come on back. We're counting. Thanks again. We'll see you in about 10-15 minutes. Oh, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I was waiting for the ghost to come out from the flies here. I guess that wasn't going to happen. But thank you very, very much for coming back. We did count. We've only lost about 2% erosion from what came for the first act. Thank you. We have the courage to proceed. But before we turn it back over to the band for a few more wonderful numbers, as it says in the program, I'd like to actually turn the program over to Brother Mel Richards, who is a baritone, a Cornellian, a Glee Club alum, a dentist, and a great, great fella. Here you are, Mel's on.
I am Mel Richards, class of '67, and a Glee Clubber from the 1960s and a Savage Club member since 1966. And at this time, it's my great pleasure to call onto the stage the current president of the Glee Club, Andrew Smelly, and the director of the Glee Club, Professor Scott Tucker. Now, if you've taken time to read the backs of your programs, you all know that we trace our roots as Savages back to the Glee Club. And appearances can be a bit deceiving, but it does say here that they founded us. Anyway, we have had a long tradition going back to 1895 with the Glee Club, and some of the finest vocalists that have been members of the Savage Club have come from the Glee Club. Names that many of you here in the audience will recognize from the 40s, Howard Heinzes and Duncan Sells, remember tenor and baritone. In the 1950s, Dick Bump. The 60s, Arthur Neal. And in the 90s, Dan Falcone we have now. Tonight, in years past, sometimes the Glee Club and the Savage Club have sort of traveled their own paths. But tonight we would like to celebrate our roots in the Glee Club and present to the Glee Club a check in the amount of $1,000, Brother Joe McConnell, to be used for their recent endowment fund campaign.
It's a great pleasure, especially since it isn't my money to present.
May I say, if you like what you hear tonight, it would be our pleasure to entertain you at one of our monthly meetings at our Savage Club Rathskeller in the Village Green up on Cuga Heights. So we hope to meet again soon.
Thank you, Mel. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Mel has so eloquently said, my name is Andrew Smelly, and I'm the president of the Cornell University Glee Club. I'm joined by Professor Scott Tucker, our director and conductor. On behalf of the Glee Club, I'd just like to extend our warmest thanks and gratitude to all the members of the Savage Club. Thank you all very, very much. In addition, this comes at a wonderful time for the Glee Club and the fact that, as Mel said, this gift is actually being doubled by our anonymous donor in order for our endowment challenge this year. So it's actually bountiful, very bountiful. Again, congratulations to all the reunion classes, and thank you all very much.
Who said the Savage Club was good for nothing? Take it away, Joe. This just in from Cornell Sports Information Service. Tragedy was averted earlier this spring when 2 Cornell oarsmen learned a truism. In an effort to hone their rowing skills, 2 Cornell crew members took a kayak out on Cayuga Lake Inlet one chilly morning. Still freezing halfway through their workout, the lads decided to remove their hats and jackets and build a fire in the middle of the kayak for warmth. Luckily, a passing fisherman pulled the students to safety as the craft burnt and sank. Later, over mugs of hot chocolate, the pair admitted that they had learned a valuable lesson, that you can't have your kayak and heat it too. Oh, wait. I think it's entirely uncalled for. I really do. But what is called for next is Mel Richards and his friends. They're going to be doing a very, very tricky and wonderful version of Mariah. It's not just a bunch of hot air, it's a wonderful arrangement. H. Michael Newman will be coming up after Mel with a very moving recitation of John Greenleaf Whittier's Civil War poem, What the Birds Said. And we'll close this segment with that wacky barbershop quartet back here again. And there is nothing else for it. They do, in fact, go completely bananas on us. But I think at this point, it looks approximately as if Mel and his friends are ready with Mariah. Take it away.
And sends the clouds a-flying. Mariah makes the mountains sound like folks were up there dying. Mariah, Mariah, they call the wind Mariah. Before I knew Mariah's name and heard her wail and whining, I had a girl and she had me, and the sun was always shining. And then one day I left my girl, I left her far behind me, and now I'm lost, so good I'm lost, not even God can find me.
John Greenleaf Whittier was an American poet who lived during the Civil War and often wrote songs dedicated to the abolition of slavery. The poem I'm going to recite for you tonight is about a Union supporter far to the north who, concerned about the welfare of his sons fighting somewhere down in the south, sees some birds flying overhead and imagines a conversation with them that goes like this. The birds, against the April wind, flew northward, singing as they flew. They sang, "The land we leave behind has swords for corn blades, blood for dew." O wild birds flying from the south, what saw and heard ye gazing down? We saw the mortar's upturned mouth, the sickened camp, the blazing town. Beneath the bivouac's starry lamps, we saw your march-worn children die in shrouds of moss, in cypress swamps. We saw your dead, uncoffined lie. We heard the starving prisoners' sighs and saw from line and trench your sons follow our flight with homesick eyes beyond the battery's smoking guns. But heard and saw ye only wrong and pain, I cried, O wing-worn flocks. We heard they sang the freedman's song, the crash of slavery's broken locks. We saw from new uprising states the treason nursing mischief spurned, as crowding freedom's ample gates, the long estranged and lost returned. O'er dusky faces seamed and old, and hands horn hard with unpaid toil, with hope in every rustling fold, we saw your star-dropped flag uncoil. And struggling up through sounds accursed, a grateful murmur clomb the air. A whisper, scarcely heard at first, it filled the listening heavens with prayer. And sweet and far as from a star, replied a voice which shall not cease till, drowning all the noise of war, it sings the blessed song of peace. And so to me, in a doubtful day of chill and slowly greening spring, low stooping from the cloudy gray, the wild birds sang, or seemed to sing. They vanished in the misty air. The song went with them in their flight. But lo, they left the sunset fair. And in the evening, there was light.
Daylight come and we want go home.
Me say day, 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 oh.
Daylight come and we want go home.
I wake Daylight come and me want go home. Chop banana till the morning come. Daylight come and me want go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and me want go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and me want go home. Lift 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot bunch. Daylight come and me want go home. Lift 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot bunch. Oh! Daylight come and me want go home. See a beautiful bunch, a ripe banana. Daylight come and me want go home. Hide from deadly black tarantula. Ah! Daylight come and me want go home. Day-o, day-o. Daylight come and me want go home. Well, day, oh, me say day, me say day, me say day, me say day, me say day. Daylight come and me want go home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This just in from United Press International. The world was saddened with the news that veteran Pillsbury spokesman Pop and Fresh died yesterday of a severe yeast infection. He was 71. Fresh was buried in one of the largest funeral ceremonies in recent years. Dozens of celebrities turned out, including Mrs. Butterworth, the California Raisins, Hungry Jack, Betty Crocker, and the hostess Twinkies. The graveside was piled high with flowers, and longtime friend Aunt Jemima delivered the eulogy, describing Fresh as a man who, quote, never knew how much he was needed. Fresh rose quickly in show business, but his later life was filled with many turnovers. He was not considered a very smart cookie, wasting much of his dough on half-baked schemes. Still, even as a crusty old man, he was a role model for millions. Fresh is survived by his second wife. They have 2 children and 1 in the oven. The funeral was held at 3:50 for about 20 minutes. The next number, this has got an interesting story. The music started off as a trio, but as our musicians approached it and tried to wrestle it to the ground, the music kept winning. They had to call for reinforcements, so now it's a quartet. But I think you'll enjoy brothers Loy, McConnell, Shellis, and McCary. Next next thing on the segment is called Beyond Description, and ladies and gentlemen, it is just that. All I can tell you is that by the end of it, you will understand that old joke, the one that goes, question, why is a bagpipe player always walking? Answer, because he wants to get away from the music. And our final act is a lovely collaboration of the poetry of W.B. Yeats, the music of Benjamin Britten, and the wonderful singing of our favorite Irish tenor, Jack Burns. But right now, let's see how the quartet is doing with the trio. Take it away.
gentlemen, for your listening pleasure, Master Dan Lumica and his world of strange and unusual instruments. The first instrument, from the kangaroo hopping lands of Australia, the didgeridoo, loosely transcribed, stick found in woods. But in order to play that instrument, you must wear a special outfit underneath your tuxedo. Underneath Dan's tuxedo this evening, he is wearing boxer shorts covered with goose feathers. They are his down underwear. Next, from the hot swamps of Louisiana, comes some ham bone with Dave Seifert on the euphonium. And for our final instrument, from the high plains of Scotland, comes the human bagpipe.
But I
field by the river, my love and I did stand, and on my leaning shoulder she laid her snow white hand. She bid me take life easy as the grass that grows on the weirs. But I was young and foolish, and now am full of tears.
It's come to the end of the evening. It's time for us to say farewell, but first thanks. Thanks to Cornell for inviting us back every year for some strange reason. They keep doing it. Thanks especial too to the beloved, great friend of the club, Sue Ling. Sue Ling, please stand. It is to be up the creek without an accompanist. And finally, we'd like to thank you for coming from such a long distance, paying your money and being here tonight and being such great sports. We close every single Savage Club meeting and every single Savage Club show with a singing of the evening song. We'll do that tonight. But we're adding, before the evening song, what I think is the most beautiful college song yet written, called the Soldier's Song. In any case, we thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, and now, gentlemen, all rise.
The soldier loves his general's fame, the willow loves the stream, the child will love its mother's name, the dreamer loves the dream, the sailor loves his haven's pier, the shadow loves the dell, the student
When the sun fades far away in the crimson of the west, and the voices of the day murmur low and sink to rest, music with the twilight falls o'er the dreaming lake and dell. 'Tis an echo from the walls of our own, our fair Cornell. Welcome night and welcome rest, fading music, fare thee well. Joy to all, we love the best, love to thee, our fair Cornell. Music with the twilight falls o'er the dreaming lake and dell. 'Tis